I've learned over the years that success is when opportunity and preparedness meet. And I was reading, I was attending conferences, I was listening to tapes at the time, I was doing what I needed to do to grow here mentally. And I believe because I was preparing myself, even though I didn't know what I was preparing myself for, that God ended up giving me those pieces of the puzzle that because of where I was mentally, I was able to see them and act on them. I mean, I can look back now and it's obvious, that conversation with Damon, those kids coming to my door, that point where I had that 96% quota increase. I mean, all three of those are huge turning points, especially the quota increase. That was not a happy time in our life. I mean, talk about stress, but sometimes we have to go through those things in order to come out the other side better. I understand today that if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be as effective at helping others accomplish what they want to accomplish. But because I've been there and I've worked my way out of that valley, I can help empathize and help them through the process. When I was in Colorado Springs going to the Air Force Academy, the Rocky Mountains were right outside my window. And if you look at the top of those mountain peaks, there's nothing growing there. It's just barren rock, okay? But in the valley, there's green, there's lush, there's growth everywhere. Well, it's the same thing in our life. All the growth occurs in the valleys. We're too good to listen and to grow when we're at the mountaintop. And so I believe God takes us through experiences in our life when we need to grow and we need to learn, because we're not learning otherwise when it's going good. And so today, even though those times were difficult, I now know that I had to go through them in order to be where I am today, to be able to lead the family, to be able to lead the team that we have today, and to be able to run the business that we have. One of the things I love about owning a business is the fact that I can be me and don't have to hide anything. Oftentimes you work in the corporate world or whatever, and you're expected to act a certain way, or say certain things, or not say other things, or whatever. It's very, very obvious to most people that I'm a believer. It's very, very obvious to most people that I live my life and try to run my businesses as I believe God is meant for me to do. That's refreshing, because I always had to play the game when I was working for somebody else. Some people are going to hear my story and they're going to be like, man, they can't relate to it at all, and that's fine. But it's been amazing how many people have heard it and said, that's a guy I want to get involved with. That's a guy I want to do business with. I talk a lot about multi-generational entrepreneurship, and not just teaching moms and dads business through our franchise, but having the kids be involved as well, so that they can learn and so that they can be standing on their parents' shoulders one day that much further along. I didn't start SSV until I was 40. I didn't start my first business until I was in my late 20s. My kids are starting businesses in their teens and have been a part of an entrepreneurial household from the very beginning. My youngest, Rebecca, when we got started with vending, she was 3, 4. Initially, she was just putting quarters in the machine and getting stuff out of it, gumballs or whatever. But over time, she learned how to put the machines together. She learned how to fill the machines. She learned how to go servicing with us, as did Sarah and Zane as well. My son Zane, when he was 10 years old, I realized, when we started SSV, I realized real quickly that graphic design was going to be very, very expensive, and our business was going to be full of graphic design because of the customization that we do for the schools that we work with. I bought the Adobe suite, I bought an iMac, and Zane traded 2 hours of working in a good buddy's yard who was a trained Hollywood commercial editor and graphic designer in exchange for 2 hours of training in Photoshop and Illustrator. He has now been doing graphic design for going on 11 years. He's worked with hundreds of clients, thousands of jobs. He was recently hired by the External Affairs Department at Hillsdale College, where he goes to school, because the head saw a bunch of his work that he had done voluntarily around the campus, and he called him into his office one day and said, "Hey, where did you learn how to do this stuff?" And Zane proceeded to tell him about how he learned it in his dad's vending business. Sarah has done the same thing and is a very, very successful designer. And she's also just recently started a company herself, doing some other things. So our goal is not just to give mom and dad a way to develop security and income for their family and additional freedom with that, but also to create an environment where the kids can be involved and can learn from that as well. I'm grateful for the opportunities I had in the Air Force and for the companies that I worked for, and they served a purpose in my life when I needed them. But in the greatest country in the world, with the biggest opportunity on the planet here in America, there's too many of us that are settling for that instead of realizing what's out there and what they can truly become. I don't believe God put us on this planet to spend the best hours, days, months, and years of our lives working just to pay the bills. And so my goal was not just to be an entrepreneur, but to figure out a way that I could make money and teach others how to make money in a way so that I could spend more of my time doing what my giftings are in my life and what I believe God really wants me to do instead of selling ads.